Seriously.
The couch.
That
The car
was more
was
than
half
the
the
car.
price.
The car was less than half the price of that.
Well, and think of all the parts you could have gotten off that couch. You know, the taillights were functional.
Oh, it was gorgeous. I mean, that thing, it was, if I remember correctly, it was red, and it was, wasn't it?
I'll find it.
You'll find it.
dark.
Well, Bruce has already got it.
There is
do
a
you?
Lalique radiator mascot called the
Lalique?
Fox that is worth $100,000 just for the radiator mascot.
Really?
You can
Really?
collect anything. You just don't need the car.
Well, we're talking about mascots like that. If you go to the Merle Norman Museum here in Southern California at
yes.
San Silmar, they have a whole collection of hood ornaments. Now, many of them are Rolls-Royce, and what they have, which is really interesting, each Rolls-Royce mascot or hood ornament is individually made. They're not made from a mold that you can readily pour the metal into and get it out. They're carved out of wax. It's called lost wax casting. And they make the mold around the wax. They pour the molten metal in. The wax burns off. And when it cools, they open up the mold, and there is your new hood ornament or mascot.
Which is a sculpture.
Yeah, it's a sculpture. Starts out as a wax sculpture. So they've got craftsmen, and that's one of the reasons Rolls-Royce costs so much, is because they got some stupid guy carving wax. But
And melting it off.
and melting it off. It's a waste. You just
One at
spent
a time?
days. Yeah, one at a time.
One at a
One at
How
a time.
much would that cost to insure, Mr. Insurance Guy?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Beyond a lot
lot.
more. A lot more than the car after about 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having to inspect a Rolls-Royce. I forget which model it was, Corniche, I believe it was, and it was $10,000. And I'm going, gee, $10,000, and I could have a Rolls-Royce. The brake job is $5,000. I mean, the whole car. The reason why some of them would drop in value like that was because the cost of maintenance and ownership.
So why wouldn't a Ferrari have that same
It
experience? Is that right?
It does, but the difference is it's a Ferrari. Oh, it's not a sedan. So the Ferrari has a racing history. When was the last time you saw a racing Rolls? Although they did at one point in time with the Bentleys and the Rolls, they did have. They used for one thing in the early days. Rolls-Royce did not build the bodies; they only built the chassis with an engine. Coach builders built the bodies. So you had some, and we've
But
seen Jay Leno.
1920s, right?
Yeah,
In the
20s, 30s,
1920s.
up until the 40s. And they even had a U.S. operation where the chassis was shipped over and the cars were built here in the U.S. for
Yes.
U.S. consumption, the left-hand drive Rolls-Royces. Occasionally, we're in the Southern California area, and we have a restaurant called Bob's Big Boy. And it's a hamburger place. Every Friday night, it's got a cruise night.
Similar to like a lot of
places.
Bob's Big Boys around
Yeah.
the country, yeah.
And Jay Leno occasionally would come in there after he'd shoot his TV show. And a couple of times he came in with a blower Bentley, but not the one with the body, just the chassis, engine, and 2 seats. And
Is
a
that
cowl.
legal? Is that street legal?
Well, it had
It's
lights.
Jay Leno. It
Would
doesn't
you
matter.
pull Jay Leno over? I mean,
It had
come on.
lights.
It had lights.
seat.
It had
He's got a
seats.
deuce
Okay.
and
Didn't
like
need
that.
seat belts, and he'd drive it into Bob's
Okay.
Big Boy on the cruise night, and it was just the coolest thing to see. So,
Do you know that
see-through-
Jay got the first 2018 Ford GT?
Yes, and he's got the first of the previous edition as well. He got them both.
That's because he
And,
does good PR
Remember
for
the
auto
commercial?
companies.
Yeah, good.
Remember the commercial? It might have even been a Super Bowl commercial where he, Jerry Seinfeld, and all these other people are trying to compete for the number one car of a certain make. It may have very well been the Ford GT.
May have been.
And I think it was Seinfeld and somebody else going back and forth, and then Jay swoops in and takes it and runs away. With his, ha-ha, that perfect laugh. That was a funny commercial.
All right, you've got GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, going on right now.
We're not showing commercials,
We're not
but
showing
we're
commercials
telling you
right now,
about
but we're
them.
telling you about them. And if you want, call in 800-809-0802 and talk to us about your experiences with Barrett Jackson. And we're going to take a commercial break in just a few moments and come back, and we're going to talk about one of the most popular muscle cars of all time, the GTO. Gas, tires, and oil.
Little GTO.
Gas.
Dee-dee-dee.
Who did that song?
I'm waiting for you to fade out.
Yeah. Because after that, I don't know.
What does
anything.
GTO stand for? Gas,
Gas, tires, and oil.
Yes.
Actually, no. It's Gran Turismo Oblongata.
Yeah,
Gesundheit.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think
It
it's
is, actually.
omologato.
Well,
Obbligato?
They stole it from Ferrari. Licensed it.
My
but stole
Italian
it
ain't so
from
very
Ferrari.
well.
Yeah, obbligato. What is obbligato though? Because omologato is Italian
pasta,
for
I believe.
homologation for
Yeah.
It's a pasta, I believe.
Gran Turismo
Pasta.
tortellini.
Yes.
Didn't we once do that on Facebook? And-
Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
What he said.
Okay.
Obbligato.
Are we still live?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I just wanted
Believe it or else.
We're not watching. Between you, me, and the wall, here's a little secret
Here's
as to
a
what's
secret.
going on here.
Yeah.
We aren't looking at any monitors.
No, we're not.
Because we found that when we were doing the show, at least when I guested on the show, we were staring at the monitors too much, like I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
The camera. So we decided to keep the flow going, treat it like a radio interview.
Right.
And
we're doing
so-
kind of radio format tonight.
Right.
We're not looking at the monitors.
No.
Do not try to adjust the horizontal. Do not try and adjust the vertical.
There's actually 4 blondes on the show tonight.
Oh, man.
That's why this is happening.
Yes, and
Oh, there they are.
one of us is naturally blind.
Well, I know it looks great.
You're chrome.
I'm chrome. Yeah, I'm chrome. I'm a car guy. It's chrome.
Okay.
All right, Bruce, do we have another commercial insert in here?
There we go.
So we stop insulting people?
And just in time.
Especially ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Futuramic. It's a brand new word for dramatic design of the future. As architects will tell you, futuramic design combines beauty with utility. In houses or in automobiles, futuramic design means styling with a purpose. The new 1948 Oldsmobile is the first of the futuramic cars. It's designed for utmost passenger comfort and maximum visibility, as well as for smartness and style. And with GM Hydromatic Drive, there's no gear shifting, no clutch pushing. Just step on the gas and go. The smart way, the futuramic way, the Oldsmobile way.
Mommy, will the thunder make us late?
Don't worry, we'll be on time.
With the flick of a switch, American Eagle lets you shift on the fly from two-wheel drive to the sure-footed traction of four-wheel drive. Because sometimes security is the most important thing your car can give you.
They wouldn't have missed this for the world.
When nature makes it rain or snow, fight back. Make it Eagle.
The beloved Beetle, once the lowest priced car in America. Dependable, basic transportation, but homely. Then it went away, leaving an emptiness in the hearts of America. Until the beloved Yugo, lowest price, dependable, basic transportation. All we've said about the Beetle is true for the Yugo, but it isn't homely. The Yugo, at $39.90, it's the road back to sanity.
Hello. Welcome back to our car party here at the Great American Auto Show.
Scene.
You're making a scene again. Yeah.
See, Bob, you'll have to
Yeah.
excuse Bob because
Wow.
Bob was actually
you know what's
watching
the
our
best
show.
thing about being the only girl in studio? I get to look at 3 handsome men for an hour.
Where?
Sweet tart. Oh, man.
Where'd you go?
Wow.
I have the best gig in town. I just sit here and look at boys all night.
All right, I'm Hotrod Bob. You've got Gas, the Great American Auto Scene with Bruce Barker, Anna Octane, and special guest in studio tonight, Randy Kerdoon from Talking About Cars.
Yeah.
And this segment, this time, we're going to go into the GTO, the Pontiac, that kind of set the stage for kind of mid-range muscle cars. The Pontiac GTO was not a cheap car. It was the middle model line from Generous Motors.
Well, keep in mind as well that back when it came out in 1964, it was an option, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, that at the time, the Le Mans was really the cheapest Pontiac you could get. It was the smallest body style.
On the Tempest, yeah.
Right, on the Tempest, and they would basically, crowbar, shoehorn, whatever you want to use, to put in a very large engine into the Pontiac at the time, and that really is just a simple matter of a lot of power a light body,
right,
and you would get some serious performance. And that begat, for Pontiac at least, you would suddenly start seeing the high performance part of Pontiac really coming in. You would see everything from the 2+2 Pontiac big body vehicles. You would see the GTO, my personal favorite. I love the 65.
Yeah.
I think the stacked headlights.
Yes.
That's a gorgeous car.
Yeah.
I like the 68. I think that was really neat. Even to an extent, the 70 was really nice. 69, okay. And it's odd because they use the same body on that. And, of course, that continued on until, 74, when they basically put the GTO nameplate back on the Ventura.
Yeah, well,
But it didn't have a big engine or anything.
No, and the Ventura was just a model variation of a Chevy Nova. Right. Yeah, and the first one, like you're saying, it was a trim option in 1964 through 1966. It was a Le Mans. If you look at the VIN number, it does not tell you it's a GTO. Without that 389, or I think in 66 it went to a 400.
So 65,
it's not a GTO.
65 wasn't an actual GTO?
No, it was still Le Mans with the GTO package. And the GTO package was the 389. A Le Mans had the same body pieces, same trim, other than the word GTO and the hood scoop. The grills were a little bit different, little trim difference, but it was a Le Mans. So if you get someone who's trying to sell you what they're saying is a GTO, and it does not have a 389 in it in the early years, it's not a GTO. And I had a discussion with a gentleman that had a 65. He put a 468 Chevrolet engine in. He could no longer prove that it's a GTO.
Copies of that editorial are available.
Yeah, but it was Le Mans, and the VIN number will say Le Mans.
Okay.
It will not say GTO. GTO is a trim option. I believe it was 1967, if I remember correctly, when it became an actual standalone model. So when you ordered a GTO, you got a GTO. But what DeLorean got going with Pontiac is they one-upped every other Generous Motors division. They had a 389. GM had a limit of 400 cubic inches in that body style class. Chevy still had a 327, was the biggest you could get in 64. Oldsmobile had a 330-inch engine, and Buick had a similar 330. So the GTO is the only one with a big motor. Although the Chevy 327 L79 had the horsepower, it wasn't a big block.
So how would you then prove that your Le Mans is, back when they were first out, that you really had a GTO? Have the build sheet along with it? I mean,
if you found the build sheet, you'd have to go through some documentation checks, but it's got to have the 389 motor.
Okay.
Without the 389, it's a Le Mans.
But a Le Mans could have the 389 motor.
No.
So, okay, so
only the GTO got
okay.
the 389. And the block of the 389 looks the same and is dimensionally, externally, the same as the 326.
How much are those worth now?
It depends on the model. I know of someone that has one $40,000 for a nice convertible.
All right, so if they're selling you one at Barrett-Jackson for $2,000, that's not a good thing.
No, run.
Especially if you're the one trying to sell it.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
And that was the bottom half's of Mercury.
Yeah, that's it. And that was one of the things that they had at Barrett-Jackson is they verified the VINs. They got into a situation, and I don't know if it was Barrett-Jackson, but some of the other auction companies, is they took for granted what the owner said it was. And I had a situation.
Get dicey.
It could. I had a situation where I had to validate a car, and the guy said I got an SS450 Ford Chevelle. When I checked the VIN number, it was a base model 307. So he had bought it at an auction. He had paid big block price for it. It wasn't a big block. It wasn't even an SS. And the problem with some of the General Motors cars in those years, it did not indicate which engine or the detail of the body. And Camaros are that way. A lot of guys make Z28s or SSs or RSs. And there are some codes that come out of the Norwood plant. But if you get a car out of the Van Nuys plant, it could be a 6-cylinder car.
Wow.
Because the VIN number does not indicate. It only indicates V8 or 6-cylinder. It does not indicate whether it was an SS or an RS. It doesn't give you any of the option codes. Chrysler was much better at that. They had a data plate on the inner fender. It had every option code that was on that vehicle. So you could positively identify a Chrysler product, but General Motors was real lax in that. But the GTO, John Z. DeLorean, had it right. It was hard. It was a hard sell to upper management, but the Pontiac was an instant success for Pontiac and started a whole craze. Chevrolet didn't catch up with a big motor until late 1965.